Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Today I want to talk about an article I'm writing. It's actually going to be a very profound one. I'm almost done. Probably release it next week. And it's about why the United States is acting so fucking awful lately. And I'm going to summarize it here. America is getting ready to rob the bank. I know shit. Kim.com made a basic financial analysis. His numbers, you can debate his numbers up and down 20%. It doesn't matter. The result is still the same. Imagine somebody who is like you, owns a house, has a job. Your house is worth $100,000. Okay? The income you bring in is $30,000. But your debt is $800,000. You are so far in the hole that whatever you earn can never pay it off. You can sell everything you own and be working multiple lifetimes, and it will never pay off the debt because it has reached that point in time. And Kim.com's made a good point, and it's very, very simple, guys. Very, very simple. The moment you as a family went from in the black and into the red, when you crossed the zero threshold into debt, you were in dangerous territory. You died as a living organism. You could have a little bit of debt as long as you had the ability to pay that debt off. The moment you cross the threshold and you no longer can pay the debt, your country is gone. And it has been going on now for some time. So the United States is dead man walking. It's a zombieville. And because of that, that explains everything that's going on. But it doesn't explain why the United States is so fixated on a war with Russia and then a war with China. These two things are seemingly insane. Well, they are. They're not seemingly. They are insane. Historically, nobody has ever won a war against Russia. And while there has been wars won against China, they were a long, long time ago. Last one who successfully took over China was Japan. In 1940. And then they were vanquished when the Chinese kicked them out when they were weakened by a war with the United States. But that's another story for another time. So let's go through some of the numbers. If you were to take everything that America possesses, all the land, all the building, all the income of every single person in the country, everything, the cars, the homes, the pencils, the clothing of everybody who is a citizen of the United States, and sells it all off in a fire sale, the United States would still be $66 trillion in debt. If you sell everything off, it would be that debt. It's dead. The only way that you can go ahead, if you're in that kind of debt, and get the money, is to do something radical. If you're a person, you try gambling. You rob a bank. Those are the only options you have. Your debt is too damn enormous. And that, people is what the United States is planning to do. It's planning on robbing a bank. Now, of course, you all might wonder what kind of banks there are to rob. The first thought comes to Russia. The United States, after the fall of the Soviet Union, went in there, started carving it up, and started looting it. And that looting of the Soviet Union brought about the economic prosperity of the Clinton years. It was a contributor, certainly a major contributor. And then Russia got its act together, and now it's very hard to do so. But still, the value of everything in Russia is equated to $3.4 trillion. No, it's not enough to take care of the $66 trillion that the America debt is, but it's enough to pay the interest for a decade, perhaps. So if the United States can control and suppress China, or control and suppress Russia, it can push back the date and the bill collectors. But still isn't enough. It still isn't enough. So what is the bank that the United States must rob? Well, it's obvious. The bank the United States must rob is China. China's this huge piggy bank. America is $66 trillion in debt. China's assets are $538 trillion. Even if the United States carved off just a section of China, it would take care of all of its bills. And like a crazy gambler who goes into the bank thinking they can just rob some money, that's what the United States is doing. That's the big game. And while it sounds really stupid to put things in these simplistic terms, it explains everything. Why Biden has gone against Russia and China. And in their minds, there's no options. There are no other options. There are no other options. None. Zero. They can't do anything. All the options have been, oh Lordy, expended. There's no other options available to them. None. They've got to loot China. Now, of course, China and Russia are aligned together. So the easiest thing to do is attack Russia first. Make them get some money to pay off the debt. Because, you got to remember, the United States is ruled by financial people, bankers, investors. They think in terms of money. They think in terms of economy. They think in terms of economics. This is how they think. You and I, we're working stiffs. We think in terms of making things, producing things, getting money for our families, societies. That's the way we think. They don't think like us. They think in terms of economies, finances. And let me tell you something. They know they're in deep shit. They know they're in deep shit. There's $66 trillion in the hole if they sell everything. The number is actually bigger, much bigger. The number is actually much, much bigger if they don't sell everything off. The only way to do it is they have to take over a couple of countries to continue paying the debt, the interest on the debt, and then they have to take over China. They have to seize China to set everything right. Now, obviously, to do this, they can't create a nuclear war. Oh, they may think of using a couple nukes here and a couple nukes there. They can't destroy the entire nation. They destroy the entire nation, they won't get enough money to pay off their debt. The idea here is to seize the assets without destroying them in the process. And the best way to do that is to kill off the people. Just kill off the people, but leave the assets intact. How can you kill off all the people, but leave the assets intact? My guess is it would have to be some kind of biological weapon, right? Why do you think there's 800 plus military bases, 300 plus bioweapons development labs all throughout the world? You guys have any idea why anybody would do such a thing? Why would a nation ruled by leadership in the finance and the economic sectors decide to do such a thing? Well, that's to balance the table. That's to balance the books, people. They want to balance the books. And this is the only way that they have come up to do it. This is their plan. And thus, that's why you're seeing what you're seeing. United States is going to cripple Russia and then seize its assets to pay off debt. Biden to build up enough time for it to completely suppress China and then seize its assets. And that's the grand scheme. My impression is schemes never work out as they plan. And the world is not one big accounting ledger, no matter what they may think in Washington, D.C. And while there's all these other facets, and we get so caught up in the propaganda games and this and that, what we're looking at here is an out-of-control United States. And each time they pull out a multi-trillion-dollar bill for military expenditure, then you know that what I'm saying right here, what I am saying right here and right now is absolutely and positively the truth. So let me summarize here and recap. The American leadership are accounting finance people. They're lawyers, accountants, financing. They deal with large sums of money. They come from the elite strata of society where money is king. There is no question that the United States is FIRE, not STEM. STEM is scientific, manufacturing, engineering. American leadership is FIRE, finance, economy, insurance. Okay. These leaderships, that's how they think. So you have to get into their mind to think on how they think. And they look upon the world and the nation as one big ledger, with all kinds of numbers going up and down and everything. If you put all the issues aside and just you big round numbers, the amount of assets the United States has, the amount of income it has, minus its debt, minus its unfunded liabilities, you get a number that's far bigger than anything that the United States possesses. If you sell everything that everybody has in the United States right now, everything, even the dirt, the land, the coal under the ground, everything, it's $66 trillion in the hole if there's a massive fire sale. The only way the United States can sustain itself is, number one, pay the debt off on a regular basis by looting a couple of other countries in the process. Meanwhile, go for the big plan, which is scarf up a big, ripe, juicy bank and then pay off all your debts. Now, of course, the way this will happen is going to be very, very bloody. It's going to be very, very messy. If you try to rob a bank, there are bank guards with guns and video cameras and supposedly a detective and police force that will track you down. You try to hurt China, and China will fucking slit your throat. Okay, China's not a Christian nation, not like Russia is. The only way that, and the United States knows it can't take on Russia or China, and certainly can't take on both. It knows because RAND has done military simulations, and the American military has run simulations, and they all ways. They always lose against Russia. They always lose against China. And they're afraid to try both of them at once. Yet that's what we have. Why is that what we have? Why? Because they have their secret weapon, which is the bioweapons. Well, that's out in the open. Russia and China have both written elaborately about the United States' use of bioweapons. And while COVID is one such instance, you've got to remember, guys, the United States has been bioweapon bombing China ever since the 1950s. And that's well documented. You may not want to read it, but it's well documented. So that's the situation. That's the situation. Now that you know the full situation, what you going to do about it? Not much. The United States is looking at China as this big, ripe melon that it can carve up. And it can use other nations to fund this, which is why it's using Syria right now, and oil, and it's trying to seize other assets from places like Venezuela and everything. They're trying to prop up the debt, make the monthly payments, if you will. But each time it makes a budget, $1 trillion here, $4 trillion there, they can't pay this debt anymore. There has to be wars to fund it. When the United States switched from the debt-paying Afghanistan and moved to Ukraine, they were expecting far bigger monthly payments on debt. And that did not happen. I know, granted, that this is a very simplistic explanation of what's going on, but it's real. And I'll have an article out on this here in a couple of days, maybe next week. Watch for it. In the meantime, people, have a great day. Remain calm. Concentrate on yourself and your local community. And